So the in Germany, just a news that came. So in Germany, the news that came is that the finance minister was sacked. Uh, just came on basically, and the whole coalition now
Meine
is
Damen und Herren,
in the
ich
on the
habe den
brink.
Bundespräsidenten soeben um die Entlassung des Bundesministers der Finanzen gebeten. Ich sehe mich zu diesem Schritt gezwungen, um Schaden von unserem Land abzuwenden. Wir brauchen eine handlungsfähige Regierung, die die Kraft hat, die nötigen Entscheidungen für unser Land zu treffen. Darum ging es mir in den vergangenen 3 Jahren. Darum geht es mir jetzt. Ich habe dem Koalitionspartner von der FDP heute Mittag noch einmal ein umfassendes Angebot vorgelegt, mit dem wir die Lücke im Bundeshaushalt schließen können, ohne unser Land ins Chaos zu stürzen.
Let me tell you something about Germany. I live in Germany. I moved here in a time that where the economic situation of Germany was going quite well. Germany in Europe has always been a little bit of the powerhouse of Europe. Let me explain this a little bit better because it's true and not true at the same time. Germany has a very good diverse economy. Differently from other countries in Europe, UK included, Germany has a good mixture between heavy industries, and always had it, and services. So services who complement those heavy industries. A very famous example of this is the automotive sector, right? So building cars, anything regarding cars part or car buildings in general is here in Germany is the backbone of the German economy. But all around that, it has surged all the complementary things. With cars, you have so if you build cars in your country, you need steel, and steel has to come from somewhere, so you import the steel. But if you manufacture it here, is easier. Then you gave it to the manufacturer for the car manufacturer. The car manufacturer does the car, and then in the car you have also the wheels, and then you have all the electric components. You have the brakes, you have the shields, you have a lot of things that go together with that, and it forms the, as I said, like a backbone of a country's industrialization. And Germany has always been good at that, but there was a motive behind it. Two things. Germany, after the Second World War, got split into East and West. Both of those countries, because at that time they were really two separate countries, were at odds with each other. So they were fighting each other, not in the field, not in the military, but they were fighting each other in anything else, from the economical to the political side, even sports. They were two separate football teams, one for the Eastern Bloc, one from the Western Bloc. Everything was divided in two. But the main task that Germany had at that time was that Germany needed to be an example. The United States wanted to make West Germany an example on how good the world is under capitalism. And on the other side, on the Eastern Bloc, the Soviet Union was investing as much into policy making, into centralizing in East Germany to have that as a model, as a communist model, as a socialist model to the world, for the world to see. And those two things, so these two diametrically opposed ideologies, were having its battleground in Germany. And Germany actually, in case of a hot war, it would have been devastated, it would have been obliterated from existence. But since that never materialized, what they just got is how much investment those two superpowers had in the country. And the economy soared. So there was a lot of US investment, there was a lot of Soviet investment, and especially in the West, the pumping of a lot of money into rebuilding the industries of Germany after the Second World War, and then to develop those to have such high standards that the East could not compete. On the other hand, on the eastern part, you had a lot of social programs, a lot of, as I said, here, for example, you can see still the Plattenbau, so like things for like housing for poor people and so on. It was meant to be an example also for a socialist state. But then the wall came down. Also, another thing that needs to be mentioned that is very important is that even though there was an East-West division, the fact that Germany was split into Germany, the German West government especially, in a way could kind of be the middle ground between the US and the Soviet Union. And with that came gas from the Soviet Union that started to come in very early, 60s and 70s, and then it became bigger and bigger and bigger. And this gas and at times oil fueled the German economy. Then the wall came down and Germany had still the steam, right? So all the years of growth behind them, like this economic miracle after the war, but also finally uniting. It gave, for example, West German industries and, for example, supermarket, just like the easiest examples that come into my mind, a new colonizing, like basically a free new market right in the center of their of their nation, which was East Germany. And they jumped on it. And of course, this new market with, I think at the time they had something like 20 million people, they just grabbed it. So new investments, new opening of new Lidl or Edekas or Rewe, which are supermarkets all across Eastern Germany, new manpower to fuel this new economic regrowth. And this lasted up until Merkel. There were some good reforms made, again, just because the country was booming and growing. And in the early 2000s, Germany really was the powerhouse of Europe. So the nation basically with who was the richest in Europe, and also it was the nation with the most people, 82 million at the time. And then Merkel came, and another thing that Germany experienced was political stability. Now you have to understand, political stability is like a football, to just use the same example as before. It's just a football team. If you have a good coach, not even like an amazing coach, but a good coach for a very long period of time, he manages to fulfill everything. Like, it gives stability to the team. It has a vision that in 10 years he will likely able to achieve. Instead, in other countries like Italy, for example, they change like prime ministers like underwear. So the previous prime minister cannot achieve anything because the next prime minister comes in, destroys everything that it was done before. And it's a constant cycle of never growth or never changing things. Germany didn't have that, and when Merkel came in, then she gave, I think it was 15 years of stability, literally like a queen of Germany for a very long term. But Germany was already starting to crack a little bit. To 2008, then the USA, after the election of Donald Trump in 2016, so again, as I said, Germany was the example of the United States, and they had a lot of interests, especially in West Germany. But now that the wall came down, why would you invest more and more money in Germany? No one cares. Germans realized that, and they tried as much as they could to hang on onto this American investments here, but also they realized, okay, maybe the world is shifting. Russia is no longer an enemy, so let's open even more the doors for for Russians to come in and so on. Especially Nord Stream, there's something that Merkel promoted, as Merkel wanted to bypass all Eastern Europe and actually render Germany like the center of the gas. And they were in a green transition, so gas was something that they could have used against their other European members. Not really against it, because they're part of the same union, but they put them in the position of power, and when they go at certain things, in certain things needs to be voted in the EU Parliament, then Germany will always get its way because it's the one holding on to the gas. All these calculations were correct, good calculations. But they lacked one core vision. Germany was dependent, and this core vision never actually sinked into the mindset of Germans or the politicians of Germans. The wealth of Germany was not self-built, but it was from outside, or it was dependent, as I said, from outside. Russia for the gas and the energy, and the United States for investments and cash flow and for protection. With Trump, the US went away, and then with the war in Ukraine, the Russian part went away. And now Germany, really as super recent, yesterday, they're facing also a second term of Trump, which will probably favor America interests and not the ones of Europe. This puts Germany alone in the middle. How do you survive that? Well, I have a bad news. You don't. Your country produces goods that are, but in order to produce those goods, you need to have the energy to produce them. And the energy is not coming anymore as it was before. It's coming costlier. You have no nations close by that have gas that can give it to you. You cannot transition into green energy. Another mistake that it was done right before the war, but it never got overturned, they closed the nuclear plants. So energy literally now comes from, or has to come from, either an unrenewable resource, so going back 50 years, or they need to buy it out from outside, which will make their goods costlier and less competitive on a market in which China is there. Germany is finding itself it's staring into the abyss. And I am honest here. I don't think there is a ladder to go out of it. No matter how many times politicians will tell you this, when something isn't there, isn't there. You cannot make it. I give you an example. If you don't have oil in your country, you cannot make oil. Otherwise, everybody had oil. So if you are dependent, if you don't have gas, you don't have gas. If you are dependent from the outside, your country will always be at risk and at odds with those providers. And unfortunately for Germany, both of those providers are now against it. I don't see how they can survive this. And this is why now a lot of political instability will come, which will make things worse. Because as I said, similar to Italy, if you change all the time, nothing gets done. And if nothing gets done, if you wait too long and nothing gets done, if you wait too long, then it becomes a vicious cycle where your country cannot go out. And honestly, I think Europe as a whole is in the right path to experience one of the worst period of economic growth that it ever had. And unfortunately, with a shrinking population, I don't see it going out of it. That's it.